of them. Trust me. The full power of the Department of Justice will be on this,
Well, yes,
identifying everyone that was there.
they certainly have the means to do that. But when you have crowds of people and some of them have their backs to the camera, those are the ones that I'm saying would be
Gotcha.
difficult to determine who they are.
Well, you know what they'll do is they're going to take a look at all the phone numbers that were pinging off the cell towers.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be doing that as well. All right, let's talk about the one that's a little bit more complicated. Ashley Babbitt, who was one of the people who went inside. She's on one side of the door, and on the video, with her on the other side of the door are other rioters, but there's also a handful of police officers right next to them. But on the other side of the door were the officers with the guns drawn, one of whom shot and killed her as she climbed up that door through the window that had been busted out. I don't think she's the one that broke it. I thought I saw someone else break the window, but she was going through that broken window, going to the other side. So let me start first. Candace, how do you see the shooting by the officer? Was it a justified shooting by the police officer involved here? Because all indications are that she's going through and she is unarmed.
You know, again, go to the video. And we have the video. This is someone who was warned several times, even based upon the video that you just rolled. She was told, stop or we will shoot, stop or we will shoot. And what did she do? She assumed the risk and went anyway, and they shot her. She was warned. She didn't stop. She went in. And you really have to look at this. What exactly was her goal, right? What was she going to do when she got in there? Already they had just in the craziest fashion, crashed their way into the Capitol. And then once they got into the actual floor, what exactly was their goal going to be? It appeared as if there was going to be some harm to somebody in the process. And as a result, the police were justified in doing what they were doing in terms of stopping to make sure that no further violence occurred. She didn't heed to the warning. She didn't stop. And this is why they shot her. So it's right there on all the evidence is laid out there for you, right on the video.
All right, Renee, let me ask you, Renee Hill, and the reason I'm going to ask you this is I think you've been on the panel when we've talked about a lot of these cases. I mean, I have covered dozens of police shootings here on Court TV, and inevitably there's this analysis of the actions of the police, you know, whether it's Jacob Blake or Rayshard Brooks. And I have guest after guest after guest saying the officers should be prosecuted. The officers should be prosecuted. Rayshard Brooks had a taser in his hand, but he was moving away. He wasn't a threat anymore. Jacob Blake with a knife in his hand. People are saying, guests on this show were saying that officer should be prosecuted. He's not going to be prosecuted, but should be prosecuted. So now I've got a woman who is unarmed, who is climbing through a window, who gets shot in the neck.
In this instance, Vinny,
how's it different?
It is very different because this is not a peaceful protest that is going on. This was
wait. The ones I just described weren't protest shootings. Rayshard Brooks resisted arrest. Rayshard Brooks resisted arrest, assaulted two police officers before he was shot. So I'm just trying to make the analysis and understand how this is different than that case where guest after guest on this program wants all these police officers convicted.
It's just like Candace said. This was an angry mob that was being warned. She was being warned to stop. Do not go any further. They were coming into the Capitol with a thought of doing harm. You could see it. They were angry and they were bashing and breaking windows to get through. And there were guns that were drawn and they were given the opportunity to stop. And she insisted on coming into the premises. So I believe that it was justified because the officers had to feel threatened. In that instance, you can see that they
Let me ask you one question, though.
Threatened.
There's 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 other people on the other side of that door. Could they have been shot as well? Or is it just by breaching that window that makes it justified?
Vinny, they were breaching the window. They were trying to get through the doors. They were trying to get in any way that they could. You see that barricade there? They were trying to get through any way that they could. And what were they going to do when they got on the other side? If they were taking that much measure to get in there, what were their intentions? And there
Neama
was every
Rahmani.
reason for the officers on the other side of that door to feel threatened and act the way they did.
Neama, how do you see this one?
Vinny, this is a 100% justified officer shooting. I agree with Candace and Renee. Vinny, we're talking about the speaker's hallway in the Capitol building. This isn't just
So what's
outside
the
building.
what's the legal standard? At what point is the basis? Is it like and I want to make an analogy here. Is it like when I'm at home, a burglar comes in, I don't know who it is in the night, this is my house, Castle Doctrine, I can take you out. Is that the analogy that we have
No,
here?
it's defense of self and others. And we had our members of Congress in this hallway just a few minutes before it was breached. These are Capitol Police officers whose job is to protect those individuals. And that's where they were. They gave warnings. Even the rioters were giving her warnings. She didn't heed the warnings. She proceeded into the hallway despite the warnings, and she was shot. And they were justified in doing so, in defending themselves and these members of Congress.
All right, let me just ask you one final question because we're running out of time here. Would they be justified, Neama Rahmani, in shooting the protesters on the other side of the door as well, who were trying to knock down the door? The ones who actually smashed the windows, can they shoot them also?
I believe so. That was the red line, the final line between the rioters and our members of Congress. They were absolutely justified in shooting at that point.
All right, let me just throw, and I'm using up a little bit more time here because we have to, it's important. Last question, and I'll throw this back to Candace. There were police officers on the other side of that door that were taking no action against those rioters. Does that in any way impact the analysis that should be done of that situation? I think I saw 5 of them that were there taking no action against the people on the other side of the door.
Exactly. Listen, those Capitol Police are there for a reason, to protect the interest of democracy, literally counting the electoral votes from